All right. Yay, it says we're live. Welcome, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I am here with Sara. She's one of our amazing bookkeepers. We just had our 1-year team-iversary, so that's what we're talking about today. We want to share kind of how everything got started and behind the scenes, all the fun things. But just as a reminder, I'm here every Wednesday at noon next week, I think. Not next No, it's the beginning of August. I'll have to switch the time again and it won't be at noon, but just because of camp pickups and stuff. But I'm really excited about this conversation today because Sara's been so great to work with and it's just been such an easy process. And, when I started my business like almost 7 years ago, like I literally never thought I would be working with anybody else. I just thought it would be me. So this was like a really big step for me and a big change. And I think this conversation goes really well with the challenge that I'm offering next week. If you haven't heard, it's profit planning on the go. And it's really about creating that framework for, the business that you want to build and really doing that process like every quarter or, twice a year or something, because like I can vouch the way my business has changed, like things don't stay the same. And then with the pandemic and everything, like we're constantly kind of, rolling with the punches, so to speak, and really having that framework and laying it out and seeing how your business does change and how things, just being open to doing things a different way and kind of mapping that out, I think is just so helpful. So I love that this conversation goes along with the challenge we're doing next week, because like 7 years ago, I would have never envisioned that I would have this conversation. So I just think that that is a fun just journey to share and to be on. And so, yay, Sara, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you?
Sure. So I'm Sara. I live in Maryland. I've been born and raised in Maryland. And I have a background with a lot of customer service, and I've been an office manager. And then one day I decided, I know I'm really passionate with numbers, and I'm really passionate about, my mom was my idol. She did bookkeeping, and I was like, I really like the idea and concept of bookkeeping. So I went ahead and I went back to school after being employed full time for like 5 or 6 years. And then once I graduated, I have two AAs. Once I graduated, I was like, okay, well, now I have this degree, I have to do something with it. And that's when you get into the scary, like, oh my gosh, I have to look for a job, and what do I need to do? And I haven't done this for a little while, and like get the resume ready and everything. And I was looking all over the place, and then I finally met you, Jordan, and I was just so scared because I was like fresh into the business. It's like you have to have like a newbie on the business, and it's like, you always want to try to get somebody with experience, but sometimes a set of like young eyes are also really good because you can kind of mold them. And I know this from experience being an office manager, is kind of when you get somebody who doesn't know the business as much is kind of nice, because then you can really mold them into what you want them to be. And that's kind of like the chance that I wish somebody would take on me, and you took that chance on me, and so I'm like really grateful because you've been
Oh,
an
thanks.
amazing person to work for. And
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Thanks. This has been like a great journey. So yeah, we wanted, like we were talking about what we wanted to say today, and she brought up like our respective perspectives. And like I think it's just so interesting because I was in such a place where I was like, I never thought I would hire anyone. Like that was never on my radar. Now I'm doing this because I can't do it all anymore. This is stagnating my growth. Like I have to like figure out how to hand this over. And just finding you was like, this is like too good to be true. I'm like, well, and at first I was like, well, she doesn't have as much experience, but then I was like, that's exactly like the wrong way to go about thinking about it. And I did a live stream a few weeks ago about like the people who are green are like amazing because like I remember getting out of college and not getting jobs because I didn't have experience. And it was just such this like double, like it's like, well, how do I get experience if no one's gonna give me experience? And it was just this like messed up like cycle that like how are you supposed to get in? And so I was like, that's like why I wanted to like give a chance, and it's like QuickBooks Online, like I always say the back end stuff is easy. Like that stuff is like easy to learn, and just the way you came in and just stepped up an initiative and all that stuff isn't something you can teach someone. Like the QuickBooks and the teamwork and ShareFile, like those platforms are like, that's easy to teach. And just having you that showed up and you worked and you worked for another company, and I was just like, does she want to work this much? Like, I was kind of like, are you okay? But it's like, you
And
just
I was like, yes, I work
genuinely,
better when I have a little more on my plate. It's so funny.
I was like, are you sure? Okay. I mean, I'm a hard worker, but like, dang, that's hard work. But like, just, it's been so great because that was just such an easy transition for me to like hand over. And I know at first I was like, I'll give you like a couple accounts, and then I was like, take them. Like, you did such a great job. I was like, take them all, not all, but like, how many do you want?
Right.
Because it was just such a huge, I didn't realize like how much I was like suffocating and not able to like do all these other things that I love and help grow and that support business owners because, of just like the immensity of the task and the checklist and stuff.
Mhm. And
So
that's
yeah.
that's why I love, like, I sit here and I'm like, anything that you don't want, anything you need lifted off your plate, just bring it on over. I'm good. Don't worry.
Very
Because
safe.
ultimately I'm here to make your life a little easier too and make the business or help the business grow and I'm passionate about it. And when you have passion about something, you want to help it and, get to a better place.
Yeah.
So I think passion is a big thing. When you have passion to work and passion to do good for other people and for yourself and for a business, it really, brings everything all full circle.
Yeah. And just, kind of something I was thinking about was like when you are interviewing people and looking for people and, I talked about the benefits of hiring green or whatever, but also finding those people that like love what they're doing and they're passionate about it. And it's not just a stepping stone for something else. Like it's not just like, well, I guess I'll do this in the meantime until I get this. Like it was really like they're passionate, you're passionate about it. And like you treat our clients like they're your own and you follow up and you're just so on it. And like that's just such a gift and like brings so much to the table to me and to our clients. And yeah, it's just one of those things like you just can't teach that.
Yeah.
Let me pull up on Facebook and see. I don't know if we'll have, let me pull up the make sure I find any comments. If anyone comments today, we'd love to hear from you, ask any questions, especially if you're on your journey of hiring team or finding team members. Definitely, even if you're like me and never thought you would have team members, like I think this is just a great conversation to listen to and jump in on. Ask us anything that comes up because it's we've learned a lot from this and we just want to share that and make sure that we're a resource for anyone here. So no comments so far. So I know I want to do, what else did I want to dig in next? So I love the quote, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Because I think that's just such a great thing for us as entrepreneurs and, just realizing that like, all that nitty gritty hard work, wearing all the hats, doing every single thing like that got us here. But like really for that next level, that growth, it's just not going to serve us.
Mhm.
Kind of like reframing that mindset. So I don't know, do you have anything to add
It's
about
almost
that?
it's almost as though like if you like again, the first part of that quote is if you want to go fast, go alone. And I feel like at that point, that kind of mindset can really plateau where you're going in life and to have other people like you have to think like your experience can only go for so far, but if you add another person with the same amount of experience, you can go double the amount of what your work can be. So I think it's definitely a good mindset to have to
And
have
it was, onboarding someone is hard, like the training and, it felt like, call it the messy middle where it feels like kind of chaotic and you're like, and it was like last summer probably, and my daughter was home and, just trying to like get all the pieces and make sure nothing fell through the cracks. But like, it's so worth it, like, yeah, it's like, you're like thinking about hiring. And I know like clients I talk to, they're like, oh, like, have to, it's like, well, you do the onboarding, you get them set up either with a 1099 person or in your payroll, like that's pretty much the back end, like seamless stuff. And then it's just that training. And, I always say like, let people know, like hand over a little bit and see how that goes before you hand them everything. And I know that's kind of how we started with like certain accounts that I was just like, oh my God, like I can't keep up
Here's
with
a
this
little
anymore.
one here.
Yeah, like some big ones that I was just like, oh my gosh. And so yeah, just having that like little bits that go and make sure that it's really a good fit, and then you hand over like all the stuff. Because I know a lot of times when people hire, they're just either like they might be in a like their back's kind of against the wall type of situation where they just like have to, like they're scrambling, and they hand over everything right away, and then it turns out not to be a great fit, and then there's just all this time wasted. And I think people can really, that like slow to hire thing where and ours wasn't slow necessarily, like we kind of talked and within a week like it was kind of done.
Yeah.
But just that kind of onboarding of like, okay, here are a couple things and get those under your belt, and then here's a couple more. Then we had our quarterly meeting today, and we just kind of did more like handed over, that's off my plate that Sarah's taking care of. So just kind of like building that, and then not doing it all at once kind of thing.
Right, because I think that when you have somebody new come into the team, it's kind of like you're really eager and you really want to get them to be where you need them to be, like right away. And people who are newer, and again, I have also some experience with training, new hires, and you can really give them a big burnout if you give them too much all at the same time, and it kind of scares them away almost.
Yeah.
So I think, doing those baby steps can really help build those like a foundation to where you want that person to be in your business and in your relationship. So I think, those small steps, and I always would be like, I don't want to show you too much this day, or like I'm only going to show you this on this day, because I don't want you to get overwhelmed, because it can get overwhelming. But at the same time, when you do those small steps, it makes it seem so much easier and so much better. One thing that you did for me personally was you did these little videos, and it introduced me to like each of the clients that I was going to be working with, and kind of show me a little bit about their business, and like kind of show me around the systems. And we even we even went together and we looked for a good software management system, and like we tried a couple out, and we were like, well, how do we like communicating within this one, and how do we like how it is communicating with clients with this one. So I think having that say in the business, and say in like how our relationship is also really important. And it makes it made me feel really good and special, like it meant something.
Rose. Oh, you're on mute. Okay. And that was like, I'm so glad you were there for that, because it was just, when it was just me, I had a system that worked. And, I'm always like, make sure you have a system before you onboard someone else. But, like, I had no idea that like it wasn't really going to work with somebody else, or it worked well enough, but it was like really cumbersome, the spreadsheet, and just like having to go into multiple spreadsheets and see it was hard to get a feel of everything. And then we were communicating with emails, and that was just all over the place. So like having that feedback while I was looking at the platforms and us using it together, and having that was just such a gift, because, to do that with like a client or something, that's kind of just like, oh, not really what you want to do.
Right.
You're like, they don't want to be like your guinea pig with this. So it was nice that we were like in it together, and worked in it, and you still like teach me things about it all the time that I'm like, oh, cool. I didn't know you do that.
You too.
I'm like, wow. Showing my age. I'm like, how do you do that again? Can you give me a video?
Right. Well, and it's funny because we even just found something that's good in Google Sheets today, or Google Drive today. And we were like thinking like, how is there a way we can get a notification? And it's like, well, oh, we found it.
Like, okay, all I had to do was sit down and Google it, and like, okay, figured that out. So just like a good lesson about like, we're always kind of learning things, and it's not just like I don't know, I feel like in school they always talked about like the top down approach or whatever. And it's just like a like communication and like, you know, because that's been big. Like we really, you know, luckily when I was like writing notes for this, I was like, we don't have like a big
Right.
lesson, you know, or like anything bad that's really happened. It's just more of like being in communication, being open to like feedback and yeah, just thinking of like, okay, well, like when we were just on our call and figured that thing out the spreadsheet, it's like, okay, how's like this is kind of it's not a problem, but like it would be easier for our clients if I could figure this out. And then, you know, we did it. And it's like, okay, cool. You know, so like having like the two heads is better than one kind of thing. Um, is
Right, because it's
helpful.
like you think that like, well, we can't be the only ones who thought about this. Like somebody else had to have
Yeah.
thought about this and implemented it. So we were like, it has to be here. So it
Mhm.
was really nice to be able to like find certain things in like the systems and being able to implement that. You know, because it ultimately makes our life easier. It makes the client's life easier because we're trying to make things every time we try to bring more things to the table and kind of look at things. It's a whole streamlining process. And it's like as long as we learn things together and we kind of look at things together, it's like so easy for everybody involved. And it's really nice.
And like that's another, you know, kind of attribute that I love that you have and that, you know, is so valuable when you're hiring people is like they're like you're looking at things as a puzzle. Like you're really
Mhm.
looking at the bookkeeping and looking at each month as like a puzzle and things to figure out and solve and not just like, oh, these tasks I have to check off the list. Because we all have things in our business that are like that, like tasks that they are tasks that need to be checked off, but like there's just a higher purpose, a deeper meaning. It plays a bigger, you know, it's part of a bigger piece. And so like I love that you know, think of it as like a puzzle and it's fun and stuff to figure out.
That's
That's
hey, I love stuff like that. Puzzles are my thing.
do you do jigsaw puzzles or do you just like the numbers
I
puzzles?
That's so funny because I'm such a numbers person. So I do Sudokus and I love
Okay.
Sudoku. And
Yeah.
like, you can give me the hardest one and I'm all for it. But like and
Whoa. Nice.
that's how it is with everybody. It's like I'm a numbers person. This next person could be, you know, your construction person. And I don't do anything with construction, but like, hey, I'm your numbers person and I love it. I'm passionate about it. And, you know, I love being able to, you know, bring that to our clients and kind of ease, you know, the pressure on them too.
Yeah, it's a
So
big relief, you know, when I know like, you know, you talking with clients, maybe getting feedback, but you know, just having that purpose in our jobs and, you know, as team members and as business owners and all this thing is just remembering like what we're doing in our business. And you know, not every day is going to be like the easiest, most graceful day, but like, you know, stuff hits the fan sometimes, you know,
right.
not usually, but you know, just being willing to like step back and see like that bigger picture and appreciate the job that we're doing and how we're helping people. So I just think that's a nice thing to perspective to have.
Absolutely.
Let's see. And you know, we can kind of look at it from a logistical point too. You know, for anyone out there, like we, you know, initially used spreadsheets and email to kind of do everything. And that's when we found the platform that we use now, Teamwork. And I know people use like Basecamp and Satori and blanking
Microsoft
on,
Teams.
yeah, and Microsoft Teams. But yeah, we tried that one
We tried that one
also.
too.
Yeah. Um, yeah, before we like totally switched over everything. Um, but you know, just finding that platform that works for you and is kind of like conducive to your business. Like the Teamwork is really conducive to bookkeeping and what we're doing to keep everyone in the loop and have all the files. Then we also use ShareFile, which is like a secure document sharing place where we keep anything private like bank statements and W-9 forms. So I think that's just helpful to see in your business, like thinking about which platforms make it easier to work with your team and, you know, have that bridge if you need to work with clients and everyone kind of being in the loop. Because I know people use Slack, but then it's like you can't really do files and sort the files and maybe Slack does things that I don't know about. But, you know, just having a place where we can do the chats and we can do the messages and we can have the folders is just helpful. So I just encourage anyone, you know, if you are onboarding team and finding out what platform works for you, because it really makes a big difference. And, it's
And
like,
it takes some time. It takes some
yeah,
research. I know that we tried at least 2 or 3
yeah, it's
before
like,
we settled on teamwork. And so like it's kind of like one of those things where you're like you're trying it out and you think it's great, but at the same time it's not quite there.
yeah,
And there's so many different options out there, so many different ways that software management systems can cater to certain businesses. So it does take time and it takes some research, but it's not something that you should get disheartened about because we found one that works for
yeah,
our business, and
yeah,
it took time, but hey, we got there.
yeah. And it's one of those things, like, we could have kept looking forever, like, we could have just tried this one and this one. It's like, we got to the point and I'm like, checks all the boxes,
It
basically.
does.
So, like, we're going all in,
Yeah.
and getting it. And it's just totally worth, like a service provider's like software fees are like killing us slowly. But, it's just like worth every penny, and just finding one that, just serves your purpose and is worth it, because it's just such an asset in the business, in addition to team. But just having that place for everything to be in one spot and run smoothly. So yeah. And then, I think we've talked about meetings. And so I always like to have quarterly meetings, and we were doing team meetings where, we've got 3 bookkeepers now and me. And so we'd have a quarterly meeting all together. And this quarter we kind of switched it up, and we're doing one-to-ones, which I do one-to-ones with my clients. So it was just kind of like, oh yeah, like, this makes so much sense. Like, the one-to-one, and it really, like, everyone's kind of separate and working on different accounts and kind of doing their own thing. So it made sense to kind of switch it up and do the one-to-one. And, the feedback I've gotten is that it worked well, and kind of
Right.
opens, we can talk about anything that comes up, and it's more personal. And yeah. So,
Yeah, and I agree. It was funny because it's like one of those things where you're like, when you do the quarterly meetings together, it seemed like it worked and it worked well, but you're right. After reflecting upon it, when you finally said like, "Hey, let's do one-to-ones," I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense.
yeah, makes
And
sense.
so it's like we're always learning, we're always shifting on what we're trying to do, and I think the one-to-one meetings are really good because you can be very honest, very blunt, and like talk about specifics about what you're working on, and you don't have to worry about trying to figure out what another person is trying to say, and relating to one of their aspects of the business. So it's really nice to have that one-on-one meeting and team. And then I was talking to you about having another team type situation so that we can all get together,
We're
because
like
it
drinks.
really is, yeah, it really is a nice little group that we have. And I think it's a really empowering thing to get everybody together too. So,
Yeah,
but those meetings though first absolutely needed to be a one-to-one thing. I think that
yeah.
was the best way to get the most out of it.
And I just had always heard of like team meetings, have your team meetings, and quarterly
Hmm.
meetings or Monday meetings. And it's like, so that's what I did. And then it
Yep.
just was like, well, I don't have to do that. Like, I don't
Right.
have to, it's just that like moment of being like, oh, there's a different way, like, and it works well, and we can change it and do another team meeting later on. But just seeing like what works in your business for your people and how y'all work together, I think is just such a gift to be able to like, we can do what we want, like, it's our business. Just getting that feedback from people and seeing, um, something else I want to talk about that I don't really think comes up with me. I try not to anyway. Um, I don't know if you've read The Big Leap, or if anyone here has read The Big Leap. It's by Gay Hendricks, and I think it's just a really great book. Our library didn't have it, but I ended up buying it on Amazon, and like, I read it like 3 times. But it's basically how, as humans, our brains kind of have this like thermostat setting for success, for happiness, for everything that feels good. And kind of when we go over that limit or exceed what we're used to, our brain kind of like self-sabotages and kicks us back down to where we're comfortable and what feels comfortable. I mean, there's like, in the book, they give tons of examples, but we see it in celebrities all the time. Like, they win an award and they immediately go start a fight with so-and-so, or in politics, like, it's like constant, like, that you see it. And so, I don't think, when I upper limit, I think I get grumpy with my family. That's my kind of upper limiting telltale sign. But I do want to point out some people kind of do it with their team. So when they're upper limiting, they kind of not take it out on their team, but they kind of like, okay, I'm going to give my team all this stuff. And then when they're upper limiting, they're kind of like, well, wait, I need to go back and check everything they're doing. Or maybe I need to, just go in and do something for them. Or, they kind of sabotage that, not sabotage, but they just kind of take away like what their team member was doing and is good at doing. And so I really try
Like
to be
one step
conscious
forward,
of,
two steps back kind of
yeah,
situation.
that sort of thing. So it's like, I don't think I do that. But I do want to
No,
I'm
you don't.
always trying to be cognizant of like, okay, like, if I'm feeling this, like, oh, this is too good. And I love that I know, when people aren't like, when my team members aren't messaging me, like, I know that everything is getting done. And I think that's just such a beautiful feeling. So I don't have to be like, well, did you check on this person? Or did you check on this? And like, sometimes I'll check in because I'm like, did I miss something? Like, you're not waiting on me, or, just to like make sure that it wasn't me, but I don't feel the need to like go in and like follow behind everybody and, do that. Obviously I like check work and we would do reviews and all that stuff, but I'm really trying to be conscious, and something I love talking to business owners about is being conscious of that, like feeling like good and everything's going well. And then we kind of are like, wait, it shouldn't be this good. It shouldn't be this easy or whatever. And so they kind of like cause trouble with their team members, which I'm not saying you never have to have a difficult discussion with a team member or nothing ever comes up, but, just making sure it's coming from a place of like what's really going on, and, just taking a look at that. And I
Well,
don't
I
know if
think,
your job you've ever seen that too.
yeah. Yeah, so I think that's like a really good point because, you and I, we've both determined that we have type A personalities.
Yeah.
And when you have a type A personality, it's very hard to let go of something and to let somebody else take care of things. And you want to kind of almost micromanage what they're doing because you know how it's supposed to be done and you want it to be done correctly. And it's something that you've done, all your, this whole time for so long. And it's kind of like, okay, so somebody else is coming into the mix. And do I really want them to take on the whole thing? Or should I just kind of like look over their shoulder and make sure that they're doing everything the right way? And it kind of makes, the other person feel, almost as though like you don't trust them or you don't think they're, good for the position or whatever. So it is something that like, as type A personalities, you and myself, that we kind of have to like always keep in mind, like, okay, yes, we do have to take a breath and just realize that like there are other people who have the same outlines in life and the same feelings and it is something that you do have to kind of like make sure that you keep yourself in check. And I will say you don't do that.
I'm like, try not to.
No.
And,
I'm just saying, like, out of personal experience, that is
yeah.
something that, like, it is like myself as well. It's like I want to make sure that I don't point out too many things that they're doing wrong all at the same time because it can, really bring somebody down. But again, this is just my personal experience, not with
Yeah.
you.
And I noticed too, like when I'm not so much now, but in the beginning when I'm like reviewing the reports and like they do the work and then I just like double check and like if I find something, I'm like, oh, and this thing. And then I just like remind myself, like, you've done the exact same thing like a million times. Like this thing that you're telling someone to fix, like you've done that too. Like, don't forget, like
Right.
you put something to this and forgot to get a W-9 or, whatever. And it's like, it's very humbling. Like I did it for 6 years and I would like go back and review something and be like, wait, I did that. Oh.
Well, and sometimes, yeah, it
Yeah.
is nice to have a second pair of eyes too. So it's like
Yeah.
you have to be one who's willing to get the criticism back or get like the second pair of eyes on things because that can really be helpful in the long run because if some like a decimal point is out of place and you're trying to figure out, well, where did something go wrong, and having a second set of eyes can sometimes be really helpful and beneficial. So I mean, it's kind of like, yes, you want to give them that control but you still like bounce ideas off of each other and like,
Yeah.
and you need to have that level of comfort with people and being able to talk to them on that level of like, well, I feel like there's something wrong here? Can you look at this? And you just have to have that comfortable relationship. And I think we're there.
Yeah, I'm like, I've messaged you multiple times, like, am I crazy? Because this is not making sense to me. Or like, I'm just like, my brain is like not computing this right. But yeah, I think it's just, having a team in my business is, like I said, not something I ever thought I would do, but it has been just so great. And so I encourage any of you out there who are toying with it or looking at your business, really, truly, I don't see any businesses that don't outsource something and really continue to grow, whether it's, bookkeeping or social media or virtual assistant stuff. Like having another, hands, eyes, brain on your business, like that's when it really takes off and like you can pop. Because I'm like going through my roster of people and I'm like, I genuinely have not seen anyone like really expand, really grow without that support. It's just,
and trust me, we're just as passionate about other businesses as we are our own. So
yeah,
it's like,
it's like,
I mean, we were just talking about, that it's really humbling seeing a business start from fresh, and it's like you want them to succeed, and it's like you're so passionate about that. And so it's like we have that same passion towards other businesses as we do our own. So it's like you have to have that too.
yeah, finding those people and I spoke a few weeks ago about like things I've learned. And so like there's more of that in there too. But feel free to reach out. Either of us leave a message. We're almost pretty much at our 30-minute time today, so I won't keep us longer. But this has been such a fun conversation, Sarah. Thank you. And y'all feel free, give Sarah some love, ask questions, any logistics or mindset or anything like that comes up. And then if you haven't joined, be sure to join Profit Planning on the Go party, so that like me 6 years ago, like you can kind of like create those breadcrumbs for yourself as you're growing, so that it's just not like slaps you in the face, like bam, like got to do something about this. Like you can kind of like ease into it if you kind of see the trajectory of your business. So I'll drop the link below. But anything else? I love these chats that we get to have.
I know, it's so fun. It's like the time has gone by, and you're like, we're already at that point.
I know, I'm like, how's 30 minutes?
Forever.
And a year. I'm like, how did the year go by already? Like, that's crazy.
Seriously. It's like it's already at that year mark, and it's like I wouldn't want anything to be different. It's just such a blessing to have you
a great
and
journey.
be a part of a great team. So
Thanks,
thank
Sarah.
you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was, y'all made this team thing so easy on me. So very lucky. But have a great rest of your day, and we'll see y'all next week for another live stream. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.